Well, thanks for having me, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today to hear a little bit more about this really interesting and fun program and useful program that NOAA has been offering communities for the last few years. So I yeah, I basically wanted to just give you a big picture, brief overview of why we did this program, this mapping campaign, um, what we got out of it, and just the process of how to apply and participate and run a successful campaign. So with that, I'll just hop into it. So before we get started, for those of you who are not familiar or have not heard of what an urban heat island is, so it's basically a phenomenon that happens in almost any built environment, especially cities that are more advanced and have uh, more built infrastructure. But it's just an interaction between the sun, specifically infrared radiation, heat, and our built environment. So the more we build more asphalt and concrete and really just pave our landscape and simultaneously remove trees and other vegetation, that is just increasing that interaction between the sun, infrared radiation, and that's making our urban centers even hotter than they should be. Another aspect that adds to the urban heat island, excuse me, uh, is excess heat waste from equipment like air conditioning units. I'm sure some of you, maybe you've stood behind an AC unit on the other end, not the cool end, but the hot end, and you can feel how much heat is kind of getting blasted out into the local environment. One AC unit isn't really going to do anything, neither is 10, 20. But when you start to collect that amount of heat over hundreds and thousands of buildings across your city, that actually is going to start to heat up your surrounding environment. And so these two things combined, along with a few other variables, can cause our urban centers to experience excess heat between 5 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you are supposed to be experiencing a day that's maybe 100 degrees, if you take into account your urban heat island, you might actually be experiencing 120 degrees at some extreme in some extreme instances. So it does add a lot of heat, and uh, it can impact negatively our public health and a lot of other different things. So why did Sedona conduct this study? So, like I said, for public health reasons, that's kind of our number one reason here, um, for now and in the future, especially with equity in mind. So, a few things to keep in mind here. Um, Extreme heat, for one, has been the leading cause of death in the weather-related death in the United States, I believe, for the last 20 or 30 years, and that is more deaths than flooding, fires, and hurricanes combined. Um, so it's something that is actually really impacting a lot of us, hundreds and hundreds of people every summer. But we really just don't talk about it that much. It's getting a lot better, but at least when I was a kid, we were never really thought about it. It's just a hot day, sweat it off, go to the pool. But there are groups of people in our population who are extremely vulnerable to extreme heat, and that can include the elderly, older adults, especially if they live by themselves. Um, and I actually have a personal connection to that. I was an EMT for 6 years in Philadelphia. And I remember during those heat waves, there were some shifts, 12-hour shifts, where we did not ever come back to the station for a break. We were just constantly, one after another, going out, collecting people who were just baking inside their houses by themselves. And it was just nonstop. So we have elderly people, pregnant women are vulnerable, infants are vulnerable. Infants and elderly people, they're not very good physiologically at regulating their body temperature. So just in that, they are vulnerable, as well as minorities and low income households. Some people are not able to afford air conditioning, or if they do, maybe they can't afford to keep it on all day, or it's broken and they can't afford to fix it. So there are groups of people that are extremely vulnerable. So that is one reason we did this, for public health. Another reason is to protect our energy grid. Um, like I said, we have excessive heat from air conditioning units, but that actually is kind of a negative feedback loop here. The hotter it gets outside, the more we blast our air conditioning, and the hotter it makes our city. So we add more air conditioning. And that adds a lot of stress to our energy grid. It can handle it more or less, but it's a very strained, puts a lot of strain on the system. And as we look forward into the future, as we have, we're pretty confident that we're going to be experiencing more and more days above 90 degrees, above 95, above 100. And our grid's really just not ready to handle that. So we're trying to be proactive and rebuild or redo. Maybe that's not the best phrase, but start to implement solutions that reduce our urban heat islands. So it's taking off some of that stress from our grid. Another reason we did it is this is a fantastic campaign, an opportunity to engage and educate with our citizenry, with our residents. There are a lot of passionate people in every community, but I'll speak for Sedona, who care about climate change, fighting climate change, becoming more sustainable and resilient. But those are all just such huge topics that a lot of people don't know what to do about it, don't know where to start. So this is a great way to engage with people. They get to learn about a new topic, and they get to help their city actually uh, collect data that's going to impact solutions and decision making on the ground. We also had a lot of engagement from our city council members. A couple of them actually helped us collect data. Um, and we also got a lot of publicity from uh, news stations like NPR, Reuters, news agency. So it's a fun thing to do that as actually solving something and engaging people. So it's a win-win. Um, Again, like I've said, we did it to reduce our urban heat island. And lastly, we did it because our climate action plan actually has a action item specifically calling on the city to um, start taking steps to address the urban heat island effect. So this, like the title of the presentation, this is an important step in doing that. So there's a couple steps. Don't get overwhelmed by the number of steps here. It's a multi-month campaign and process. And some of these steps are bigger than others. So just real quick, I'll try and go through these steps. So right now, currently, we have the application opening for the next cohort, the next year. For NOAA and Kappa. And you can go online and fill out that application right now. So step one is determine your budget and fill out an application. First off, that application, it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing near the complexity of a competitive federal grant that can take months to fill out. I filled this out by myself in maybe 2 or 3 days. So it's really not too complicated. But in terms of your budget, if you are a small, medium-sized town or city, um, the the campaign costs around $15,000. Now, if you are a community that can't afford to fund that amount this year, NOAA does have kind of like a backup budget that can help fill in that extra money. So if you have $5,000 to throw at this, they might be there. They might be able to fill in that extra 10,000. So just because you don't have the full 15,000 doesn't mean you're going to be completely disqualified from participating. But if you do have the budget, which we did, I kind of look at it as we are both doing this campaign for us and leaving that extra 15 grand of that backup money from NOAA for another community. So, all right. So step two, you don't really have to do anything once you've submitted that application. You just wait until early spring to hear back. Step three, you're going to partner with your local National Weather Service office to pick a collection date. So that collection date is whatever based off of, excuse me. So that collection date is using historical data for your town. What is the hottest, driest, uh, windless, and cloudiest or cloudless day that you can find that your city typically experiences in the summer? And that's going to be your prime collection date because that is the best day you can do for in terms of data collection. Your National Weather Service office will help you pick that out. If you're an Arizona town, our governor appointed state climatologist, Dr. Erin Saffel, she is very excited about helping communities, especially rural communities, get the resources they need and assistance they need, partnerships to help address extreme heat. And I can connect you with her if you would like. She's very great. She's awesome to work with. Step four, you're going to attend a cohort onboarding and training. So they're going to bring together every single city across the country that year to kind of get onboarded, trained, get a good sense of how this process is going to move along. But you're also going to be paired up with kind of a subclass. So I was paired up with Salt Lake City and I think it was Longmont in Colorado. And it's really in those sessions where you kind of just work with your, I guess, sister partner cities and just hashing out some problems and answering questions for each other, giving advice, things like that. And then Kappa, who is the consultant who's going to be helping you every step of the way, is also, they're the ones hosting these onboarding sessions and trainings. So you're not just left alone out in the dark trying to figure everything out on your own. So step five is advertise and recruit citizen scientists. So that's engaging with your media outlets, doing press releases, social media posts about it, and really trying to get engagement from your community. And because they're the ones who are going to be actually collecting data for you. And so this is a really exciting and important step, is just finding volunteers, the willing and the interested. And then step six, you're working with Kappa to design your collection routes. So in this step, you're going to basically be making the routes that your volunteers are going to drive with their sensors. You're going to have them drive that same route once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening. And you can match and pair, volunteer groups, on different shifts and things like that. But you're basically collecting heat and humidity and wind direction, temperature throughout an entire day, preferably the hottest, driest, cloudless, windless day you can possibly find. And then step eight is your actual collection day. I'm sorry, step seven, I skipped one. So you designed your collection routes. Step seven, you have an open house for your volunteers prior to your collection day. And that is just an opportunity for you to hype up everybody, but also really review in depth how this is going to work, what you need them to do, assign them their routes, practice with the equipment if you have it already. If not, there's a video that you can show that Kappa has produced. That's pretty straightforward. It's very foolproof. The equipment they're sending you, it's basically switch it on, switch it off. And then a week or two after the open house, you have your collection day where you're going to want to take notes, take pictures, have your volunteers take pictures. and then wrap up the day, send your equipment back to Kappa for them to extract the data that you've collected. And then step 9, basically just wait 1 to 3 months for Kappa to send back your report. So once you get back your report, this is what the cover page looks like, and this is Sedona's Heat Island map. And in that report, it's going to be they're just going to give you a breakdown of collection times. They're going to give you a map for each collection time, like this one. The one I'm showing you here is the average the average temperature across all 3 collection periods on your collection day. They'll give you plenty of these maps. They'll describe in detail how their model works. It'll be filled with pictures and news reports of your project, and then a couple other metrics and stats as well. And then once that is the end of the campaign. But Kappa does offer other services for your community as well. That it's separate from NOAA. NOAA has no involvement in this stuff. But there are other services that you can pursue with Kappa, like a FLIR camera. So what you can see on your left, they would just send you an attachment that you can put on pretty much any smartphone. And it's another engagement project with citizen scientists. You hand out a handful of these attachments, and you ask your citizen scientists to walk around for a couple days, taking pictures of where they go throughout the community, whether that's the grocery store, the doctor's office, movie theater, the park, bus stop, dropping your kids off at the school, anything. And it's a great additional visualization of how your community, at even greater detail, is interacting with heat from the sun. And the other option that you can pursue, there might actually be a third, but I didn't include it here, is just the Extreme Heat Intervention Guidebook. And this is what we are pursuing as a city, where they will provide you a menu of regional and city-specific options that you can pursue to help you start to address extreme heat and reduce your urban heat island. And you can also hire them to conduct a couple hours of interviews with stakeholders. So that's what we are also doing. We're having Kappa interview some people from our emergency medical services and our county health department to a couple of different departments within Sedona's government, some nonprofits, and a couple of Sedona residents. So it just gets even more detailed to make sure the options that they provide you, the solutions they provide you, are as specific as possible and realistic as possible. So that's pretty much the process. Hopefully that all made sense and I wasn't droning on too much, but yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions.